Watch Politics on Sunday. Life is...
Labour and the federal government have agreed to the new national minimum wage at 70,000 for Nigerian workers, promising to review the national minimum wage law every 3 years.
And of course, a bill for an act to establish local government electoral commission skills at first reading in the Senate.
The Nigerian Senate approved the second reading of an amendment to the 2024 Appropriation Act amounting to 6.2 trillion naira in capital and recurrent expenditures for the fiscal year.
And the Minister of Education, Tyree Mahaman, has granted approval for the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board and Nigerian tertiary institutions to admit candidates at NAH this year after vowing to enforce a law mandating admission age for entry into tertiary institutions at 18 years.
Côte d'Ivoire has introduced a second malaria vaccine, R21 malaria vaccine, into its expanded immunization program following Cameroon's introduction 6 months ago. 15 African nations plan to begin administering one of the two malaria vaccines this year with support of Gavi Alliance.
And of course, outside Nigeria, after months of intense debates and international pressure, Gambia lawmakers have decided to keep the 2015 ban on female genital mutilation. They have rejected a controversial bill that sought to overturn the current law.
President Joe Biden is isolating at his beach home in Delaware after testing positive for COVID-19 during campaign events in Las Vegas. The White House will continue to carry out his presidential duties while in isolation, as he's presently experiencing only mild symptoms.
I wish him quick recovery.
God be with him.
Yeah.
Now, God was on my side. Words coming from Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump as he narrates his experience during the assassination attempt for the first time since the event. The former president had a solemn moment during the final night of the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
The World Youth Skills Day is celebrated to mention the significance of developing skills among young people worldwide. This year's theme, Youth Skills for Peace and Development, highlights the essential role that teachers, trainers, and other educators play in providing skills for youth to transition to the labor market and to actively engage in their communities and societies.
World Youth Skills Day aims to raise awareness among the need to equip young people with skills for employability, entrepreneurship, and self-employment. The day provides an opportunity for young people to showcase their skills, talents, and creativity, and encourages them to participate in skills competitions, career fairs, and training sessions.
And joining us live is a skills advocate and public affairs analyst, Oluwakemi Ashetu.
A very good morning to you, and thank you. I like the way you call my name. It's only when I get into trouble my dad calls me that way. It's a pleasure to be here. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Okay, so let's just move straight to it. Equipping youth is a very important tool for any nation.
Absolutely.
And that is what, of course, Nigeria is probably just going into. How should we contribute to equip our youth positively to build a nation?
Well, I think if we start first with the fact that the youth themselves must be interested in acquiring those skills, right? Because it's one thing you want to equip the youth, it's another thing for the youth to be interested in wanting to acquire those skills. One of the most important things that we must understand is, let me start with what the Yorubas say. I'm Yoruba, by the way, right? The Yorubas will say that atelewo eni ki n tonije. That is what you do with your hands, what you do with your skills, will never disappoint you. There will be a day, regardless of whatever education you may have acquired, that you will need to do something with the skills you've been given. And the very good thing about it is there is no one who doesn't have a skill they can deploy, they can sharpen, they can make better, and become the best at whatever it is. So I think most importantly, what we should be talking about now is young people getting interested in acquiring those skills. young people understanding that they can polish whatever skills that they gain, and that in years to come, those skills will be available for them. Just before I came on the program, I was taking a look at the lives of some of those who have acquired skills in the past. You know, Thomas Edison was 21. Now, I'm going to try not to mix up the ages, right? Yeah. But I looked at Thomas Edison. I looked at even our own Professor Wole Soyinka, right? They were all in their 20s. Steve Jobs was just 21 when he, you know, went with that initiative. There is, and I would go with another Yoruba proverb if you let me.
Yes, go on.
They say that Omotoba Shikma Niyengbe. That is, it is that child who raises his hands that the parents can carry, right? So what that means is even the youths themselves must understand that they must go on that limb. Then there will be the possibility to be assisted by whoever is around them. Right. So I think that more than anything else, rather than looking at dependency or, you know, dependent on what people will hand over to you as a youth, you know, youth have energy, they have vitality, they have stamina, they have everything it takes to change whatever it is they're looking at. So as a youth, you have to go on that limb, on that, with that initiative to acquire whatever it is you have interest in. And the internet is a beautiful place to do that. You know, at the time when we were growing up, I had to queue beside my father's computer to hold on for him to finish his work, right? So that I could get on the computer. But today, every youth, virtually most youth or all youths that, you know, need skills have a phone. And that means that they're connected to the internet. Whatever you are seeking, you can find. The challenge we're having is that many youths prioritize entertainment above education. And there is edutainment, so we can marry it.
Okay, so but now I'm looking at it from the point of view of, you know, our orientation as a people. Yeah. Because, so there's something that, you know, I'm always very concerned about. For example, the washing machine came about because someone thought, you know,
absolutely,
yeah, like, so is there a way to make things easier? And then, okay, so make a washing machine, make a dishwasher, make an airplane to fly. But growing up, we had what we called handwork, and for most people, it was just all about, you know, maybe they say make a broom. The idea was for you to use the palm fronds, but over time it was buy the broom and bring, buy the cutlass and bring. So we weren't really encouraged to try to fix things. Now, do you think that we can get to a level where we have that orientation very common, that parents encourage children to find a skill, and then we can now start talking about effectively harnessing and supporting it?
Do I think we will get to that situation?
Yes. How do
I think that parenting in this age is a very difficult task to take because you're competing with so many other things. I say something to my son and he's checking on ChatGPT and I'm saying, hey, behave yourself, you know. I should know I'm the parent, but then we have to argue it out, right? However, I think that this is one of the best times to live in the world, because it means that if you don't have a parent, you can parent yourself if you find the right type of information on the internet, right? So I think that what we may need to do is to restructure how our education is fashioned. And I was glad to be at the policy meeting 2 or 3 days ago for JAM, where the Honorable Minister for Education was talking about them restructuring the curriculum to include skills, you know, acquisition and all of that. But I think that some of the most important things we will need to do is that orientation to encourage young people to think outside the box. Whoever thought about the washing machine thought about it because he probably hated to wash. And most of the time, to find that thing that you like to do is usually what you hate, or find how to make things easier. I think it's Bill Gates that said it, that he usually employs people who are quote unquote lazy because they usually find an easier way to do the job, right? So what I will say is, yes, we need a reorientation. Yes, we need a resetting of the mindset of the young people, right? Today, young people have so much to consume online that they're not even looking at it. The time is going. What am I acquiring from this? And whatever you give your time to, you give your life to, because you're not going to get 24 hours later, right? Everybody, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, name it, all have 24 hours. And I must say here that for young people, I think one of the most important things to do is study the lives of those who have succeeded. It will interest you to know that Elon Musk may be one of the richest men in the world today. I don't know who's number one on the list now, right? But he used to mill lumber at a lumber mill, right? And I think a bit of plumbing too when he got to Canada, right? One of the things we need to encourage our youth to see is that there's something called value stacking. There are skills to learn and to acquire. And regardless of where you find yourself as we speak, as a young person, if you will give it your best shot, and if you will be the best at it, then there will be space created for you somewhere in the horizon.
You know, so my question is, you mentioned all of those people, great guys.
Absolutely.
But there's an atmosphere that was created. They have also,
Okay, go ahead.
There's an atmosphere that was created. You know, you have the skill, the government of the police have a way of supporting your skill.
Okay.
Whether you like it or whether you want to have that conversation or not.
We'll have it.
We'll have it. So I like the fact that, yeah, you can have the skill and all that. But there's also the place where the conversation now starts. The environment at which you now have that skill.
Okay.
How do we harness that skill to make it more potential, viable for the world to see? Are we ready to actually have that conversation?
Yes. Let me start by saying the environment, right? Over the years and in time past, people always want to blame the environment they find themselves in. And the truth about it is it's always easy and easier actually to see the cup as half empty rather than half full. It takes a lot for you to decide, I'm going uphill, you know, I am going to choose to see things differently from the way others are seeing. And the truth about it is, if you choose to see things the way others are seeing it, you would only produce the kind of results others are producing. And that's where the mob crowd mentality comes in. So it's easier to step out from the crowd, take away from the environment, and say to yourself, okay, this is the environment I have with me. What can I do with what I have? And I'll tell you something. At the time Thomas Edison created the light bulb, there was no light in America. So where was the environment? Right? There are 1,001 reasons not to blame the environment. But you must ask yourself, okay, if this is what I have as an environment, what can I contribute to it? You understand? What can I do, differently? What can I ensure that despite my environment, despite this environment, I'm sure you know Tunde Onokoya. Tunde Onokoya has a quote on his Twitter handle. And a big shout out to all my Twitter followers, because I did tell them I'll be here. All right. Tunde Onokoya has something on his handle where he says, we can all do great things from a small place. And I think that's the most important thing to always remember, that regardless of where you are and regardless of how you feel about what you feel, we can do great things, from a small place. And I'd leave Tunde Onokoya for a moment, right? There's also the young man who started Nord Motors. I ran into him in Sheraton sometime in Abuja recently, and he was saying to me, I did an interview, nothing, and I asked him, how did you start? And he spoke about how he used all his money to start, how he lost all that money. Now, this is the same environment we're talking about, and how his integrity, quote and unquote, which is the one thing that we lack, and it's not the environment, how his integrity got the banks to support him, and how he's been able to prove, to the financiers that they can give him his money, they can give him their money. That's a Nigerian. I think he's below 40, right? The CEO of Nord Motors. His name skips my mind now. Besides that, online, I do know of several people who are offering free skills acquisition. There's a guy called Agbakin at King's Official, right? I also wanted to enroll in his class for computer to learn something on programming and all of that. Incidentally, I decided I'll stay where I am. You know, so these things are there. It depends on what you're looking for. You cannot find what you are not looking for. That's the way it is.
All right. Okay. So now this brings me also to something else that gets me worried sometimes. Okay. So we've had slogans of what do we say? Not too young to run.
Yeah.
And then giving sometimes some of these young people maybe that people have backed haven't really made that case or giving us reason the next time to say that it's not too young to run. But eventually we're going to have young people that will rule the country. And we've talked about unity. It's been on the front burner for a long time.
Absolutely.
And I'm wondering, is there a time where we can get to when we can actually, bring the youth to put their energy that they use in maybe making some of these arguments on social media together to actually change that narrative about how they intend to rule this country to be a producing nation, solving our own problems by ourselves.
Okay, so I was speaking with a 70-plus-year-old man who used to be a comrade at arms at Unilag and got expelled before he was brought in yesterday. And he said to me, many of the things I did, when I was in school back then, if I know what I know now, I would never have done them. And I would have taken another approach. And that's a big shout out to Alhaji Najim Jimo, who is one of my mentors, so to speak. He's also a journalist, And that tells you that one of the greatest challenges of youth is that excessive energy. However, it can be channeled. You see, for anybody who's been young, who's been passionate about anything, there have been those periods in your life when you were much younger. Like when I was much younger, I was very passionate about changing Nigeria. But I realized that there are, and well, I'm not that old though, but I realized that, you see, the cutting off the head will never be the solution to a headache. There are ways to go about it. So yes, you're not young to run, but what value are you bringing to the table now? What are you doing now? To prepare for the future. They say that the only way to predict the future is to create it, right? Yesterday I was anchoring an event for the AFCTA and all of that. And it turned out that some of the things that were said on that stage are so germane for the future of Nigeria and for the future of Africa. There were so many things that included how Nigeria can plug in. And that's why I took my time to, say shout out to our King's official, because I know he daily encourages people to take up tech skills and he teaches them for free, right? Now, what are you doing? It said that in 2035, for example...
Can we just wrap up in like 30 seconds?
Yes, we'll do that. In 2035, for example, right, the US, Russia, and one other country will be needing about 6 million tech jobs per country. So the question is, how are you as a young person preparing for that? You have the phone, you have the internet, you can make that difference. It's up to you. My name is Kemi Ashiko. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kemi.
What an interesting conversation.